Hi, my name is Alex with Tech Tutorials, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to do something really simple. It's an underrated feature, but something that is very critical that you should be considering doing. There's two reasons why you should do this, and I'm going to be sharing those two reasons with you in this video. If you haven't already, please make sure you like, subscribe, and if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to edit a filter, but more specifically, I'm going to show you how to allow others to edit your filter. Make sure you stick around, make sure you subscribe, drop a like, and let's jump into Jira. All right, so in Jira, we're going to be going to two different places to do this. The first place is probably going to be the most common. We're going to go into a filter and I'm going to show you how to do these things. And then for the second part of the video, I'm going to show you probably the most common occurrence of why you would want to allow others to edit your filter. So let's jump into a filter. So you can come to pretty much any filter you want. And then you go to details. You come down to edit permissions. And then here, you should be very familiar with the viewer section. We've done a couple of videos where we've talked about how to allow other people to see your filters. This over here allows you to share the filter with other people in your organization. But this time, we're going to be looking and focusing on the editor section. This is a fairly new feature. It hasn't always been there. And so if you haven't really paid attention to it, you might have missed it. But if you are the author of a filter, that filter is private only to you from an editing and viewing perspective until you go and change it. Most folks go and allow the view, which basically means you open that filter so other people in your team can see it, but seldom do you update the editor. Now there's a really good reason why you would want to allow others to edit your filter, and that is essentially if you're not around as the author and your team has become dependent and relies on your filter, well, if there's ever an opportunity to make a change, you can't make that change because that filter is restricted to only you, the originator, to be able to edit. This is really important if you ever leave the organization, if you're ever on vacation, and it's a good idea for you to follow these best practices that I'm going to share in this video because you just never know, right? You can't predict the future, and you just never know if your team's ever going to have to make a modification to an existing filter and you're essentially gone. Now, there is a workaround. You don't have to do this. Most of the time, all you have to do is go to an existing filter, make a copy of it, and now that new person becomes the originator. The problem with that strategy is that you start making a ton of copies of the same data. And that can really overwhelm and clutter your Jira instance and make things really confusing for future administrators and for future users of Jira. So in order to minimize that confusion, it's best, in my opinion, to just edit existing filters. And to do that, we need to give other people the power. So the options that you have under edit are slightly different than viewers. When you go to viewers, you can do project, group, organization, or private. When you come to editors, you have project, group, user, or private. And I do not recommend that you open this up to the project because there is such a concept as having too many cooks in the kitchen. That's generally not a good thing to do. And so I would recommend that you don't allow everybody that has access to your project to be able to edit this filter because, again, you're just going to have chaos. The group is okay, but there's a problem. You might not always know who is in a group, but there's a big but. And my recommendation here is if you go with a group, you can always rest assured that there's going to be one group that you can rely on that's always going to be there to have your back. And that's going to be a site administrators group. So if you simply add the site admins, like I am doing right here, you can essentially ensure that if you ever go, if you're ever on vacation and somebody needs access, the people that have been entrusted with the keys to the kingdom can come in and essentially make the necessary changes on your behalf. Now, this is critical because even if a site admin that has all the power in the world, they still can't edit existing filters. The best they can do is make a copy of it and then give it to somebody else, right? So in order to kind of minimize this, it's a good practice, in my opinion, to add at a minimum the site administrators as a group permission to be able to edit. So that way you're future proofing your filter just in case things ever go south on you. And then the other option is a user. Now, this is probably the best recommended, right? Because you will directly control and influence who the cook in the kitchens are. And so you can call out any other users. Now, my specific Jira, I only have me. I'm a team of one. And so I don't have anybody else to share. But you would see other people in your organization that would show up here, and then you can just add them. But again, I recommend at a minimum, put the site admin. So I'm just going to do that. And then you just click on save. So that is if you're doing a filter, right? This is usually just a query that you've done, that you performed. And if, again, anything ever happens to you as the originator, as the author of that filter, this is a good practice to allow continuity of that filter to live on in the future. Now, probably the most common reason, or the most common problem that I'm trying to solve here is when you go to any project that has a board, whether it's a Kanban board or a Scrum board, when you initiate a project, the board will automatically basically pull in all of the issues that are in the project. And I can show you this by going to the board settings, and under general, we'll see that we have a filter query, and that filter query by default is usually just bringing everything from the project and show it to me. However, slightly more advanced teams usually have more than one board in their project. So that means that the filter gets modified. Unfortunately, people change their minds all the time, right? We live in an agile world where things are constantly changing. And so every once in a while, we need to make modifications to the filter of this board. Well, similar to the filters I just showed you, these filters, even though these aren't filters that were made by an individual, but they were made on behalf of the project here, they too also have an owner for editor, right? And so if you go to the details, there's basically the same interface. This is going to be private only to the person that created the project or the board, which is typically a Jira administrator. Jira administrators are always sometimes changing. And so it's a good practice here to also come through and enable the rest of the site administrators. That way you're not dependent on just one person to be able to make changes. So if you come in here at the site admins, you'll be able to do that. Or you come in at another user, maybe you add the Scrum Master, maybe you add the product owner, right? People with some authority should be in this position. You want to be very, very careful about introducing too many cooks into the kitchen. It's never a good idea to basically allow anybody, just about anybody, edit your filters, because then you're going to have a constant churn of changes, and that's not going to help anybody at all. So anyways, those are my tips and tricks on why and how to allow others to be able to edit an existing filter without making an endless trail of copies. If you enjoyed it, please make sure you subscribe. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. And as always, hit that like button. It really helps the channel, and I appreciate you being here. I'll see you in the next one.
It's only worth it if you work for it. It's only worth it if you work for it. I won't stop till they hear me now.